Good morning, folks. If you're just joining us, beautiful Tuesday morning. We're gonna wait maybe just a couple of minutes to so that others can join us as well, and then we're gonna start the morning scoop at 8:01 in the morning. Good morning again, folks. If you're just joining us, we're gonna wait maybe just 2 minutes or so others can join us as well, and then we're gonna start the morning scoop. Good morning, folks. If you're just joining us, we're gonna wait maybe just a couple more seconds, and then we are going to start. All right, I think we are going to start. Good morning again. My name is Luigi Del Puerto. I'm the associate publisher and editor of the Arizona Capital Times. Welcome to today's morning scoop on reskilling and recovery. The pandemic has forced many of us to innovate and to adapt, and our jobs landscape is changing and changing rapidly. And so we're going to talk about how our community colleges are collaborating with industries this morning to provide and offer students a pathway to a sustainable employment. And not just students, by the way, but also those who are maybe thinking of returning to work, returning to go back to school, or maybe just thinking about getting a certification and hoping that that would help them get back to work and get employment that's meaningful and sustainable. I want to thank our sponsors this morning for helping us to provide the platform that we can talk about major issues facing our state. Our sponsors this morning are the Arizona Community College Coordinating Council. The Coordinating Council is made up of the CEOs of the 10 accredited community colleges in Arizona. Together, their institutions are the state's leaders in education and workforce training. The council works together to ensure that Arizona students are career ready and that Arizona's businesses and industries have access to the highly skilled workforce they need to grow our economy. Again, the Arizona Community College Coordinating Council, thank you for being sponsor. Also, our sponsor this morning is Pivotal Policy Consulting. Pivotal Policy Consulting is a full-service government relations firm who has had the opportunity to work with Arizona's community colleges in many different capacities for the last 2 decades. Pivotal works in a variety of public policy arenas and has seen how the shifts in the state, national, and global economy have highlighted the importance of the work the community colleges do. Again, thank you both. We have a great panel this morning. Joining us is Darcy Renfro. Darcy is the Chief Workforce and Economic Development Officer at Maricopa County Community College District. She also advises the Chancellor on government and community affairs. Prior to her current role, Darcy served as the policy advisor to Governor Janet Napolitano for workforce, economic development, and higher education. She was also founding director of the Arizona We Want Institute at the Center for the Future of Arizona. She has helped build a community coalition to establish an educational attainment goal for Arizona. That group is now known as Achieve 60 AZ. Darcy previously worked as founding director of the Arizona STEM Education Network at Science Foundation Arizona. Darcy, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Also joining us is David Doré, who is the president of campuses and executive vice chancellor at Pima Community College. Prior to coming to Pima, David served as Dean of Career and Technical Education with the Maricopa Community College District and as Dean of the School of Business and Dean of the Downtown Campus at City College of San Francisco. He has served as a full-time faculty member at the community college, university, and secondary levels for 20 years. He's a proud graduate of one of the first classes of Head Start and was a first-generation college student. He is active in community leadership and community college advocacy and was most recently a 2017-2018 Presidential Fellow at the Aspen Institute's Community College Excellence Program. David, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Luigi. It's great to be here.
Also joining us is Dr. J.D. Rottweiler. J.D. is president of Cochise College and chair of the Arizona Community College Coordinating Council. He has over 30 years of higher education experience, ranging from small rural colleges to large multi-campus urban institutions. He previously served as executive vice president for academic services and professor of sociology at Central Wyoming College. He served as associate dean of instruction at Western Iowa Tech Community College in Sioux City, Iowa, and of course, he was also on the faculty at Ricks College, now Community College in Sioux City. Ricks College, now Brigham Young University, my apologies, in Idaho. He was also associate professor and chair of the Department of Sociology at Salt Lake Community College. He was nominated by Governor Jan Brewer and confirmed by the Senate to serve on the Arizona State Board of Education from 2012 to 2018, as well as on the Arizona State Workforce Board from 2016 to 2017. JD, thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Also joining us is Jeffrey Jennings, who serves as Deputy to the Commanding General, U.S. Army Intelligence Center of Excellence at Fort Huachuca. Jeff develops and implements a cohesive and synchronized strategy for the planning, execution, and oversight of the formal training, leader development, and education of the Army's military intelligence personnel. He is further responsible for the command's community and tenant relations, coordination of local, state, and federal legislative affairs, and develops and implements as well the command and Fort Huachuca strategic communications programs. Before joining the senior executive service, he served over 31 years in the Army, and his assignments included rifle platoon leader, senior intelligence officer at the BN, BDE, and theater Army level, battalion command, and also chief of staff for a two-star headquarters. He has served in his current position since June of 2015. Jeff, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
And finally, we have Mark Gaspers, who is the Senior Manager of Government Operations for the Boeing Company Southwest region. He also serves as Vice Chair of the Arizona Manufacturers Council. He represents his company before local, state, and federal elected officials on legislative and regulatory issues affecting Boeing. In this role, he leads state and local government relations activities in Arizona, New Mexico, and Nevada. Prior to his current position, Mark was a trade control specialist in support of his company's space exploration division. And previously, he worked as a policy analyst for defense, homeland security, veterans, and NASA issues for the Senate Republican Policy Committee under the chairmanship of Senator John Kyle. And he has also served as senior legislative assistant for Representative Lincoln Diaz-Ballard of Florida, and as Senator Kyle's healthcare legislative correspondent. Mark, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Luigi. Good to be here.
At this point, I'm going to play a video Bear with me as I cue it up. And this will serve as our segue. This video shows us what the community colleges have been doing over the past several years.
Arizona's community colleges are perfectly positioned to provide over...
I'm sorry, let me share my screen here. All right, can you all see my screen? Perfect, awesome. Sorry about that, here we go.
Arizona's community colleges are perfectly positioned to provide over 70% of tomorrow's workforce with an education combined with applied technical skills, industry-driven credentials, and specific preparation for employment. Serving nearly 300,000 students each year, almost twice as many as the state's 3 public universities combined, Arizona's community colleges prepare students to immediately meet labor market demands. With open admission policies, low tuition, and geographic proximity to home, Arizona's community colleges provide a critical pathway to post-secondary education for first-generation and low-income students, as well as adults retraining for a new career. To maximize impact, Arizona's community colleges leverage state funding with additional resources to drive innovation and prepare highly trained, skilled technicians. Eastern Arizona College's nursing program is proud to partner with Cobra Valley Regional Medical Center to prepare students in Gila County for immediate entry into meaningful careers. This partnership has seen 120 highly skilled nursing students from lower income areas enter the workforce. Northland Pioneer College's integrated education and training program utilizes state and federal adult education funds to help students obtain a high school equivalency diploma while simultaneously earning construction credentials. A grant from the Del E. Webb Foundation provides funds for students who are completing the program with the essential gear and tools necessary to obtain employment. The college has helped over 55 at-risk students attain the skills needed for a better future. Yavapai College's School of Career and Technical Education has partnered with Freeport-McMoRan and other companies to develop apprenticeship programs. Freeport-McMoRan provides tuition, books, and supplies, and offers paid jobs for students while they are in school. Rio Salado College has partnered with the Phoenix Regional Police Academy for 30 years. By completing this training, officers begin their law enforcement careers with 39 college credits and a certificate of completion in law enforcement technology. Arizona's community colleges use state funds to prepare Arizona students for career track jobs with Arizona companies for a fraction of the cost. To meet the growing needs of commercial construction, Central Arizona College worked with Sund Construction Incorporated to develop 4 craft trade pathways in structural welding, heavy equipment operation, pipe fitting, and industrial construction technology. Since the beginning of the partnership in 2017, enrollment has grown to more than 300 students each year and more than 150 program graduates with a 100% employment placement rate. Cochise College recently completed construction for a state-of-the-art cyber lab to provide training in innovative and cutting-edge programs like virtual reality development and cybersecurity. A brand new automotive technology building will be finished next month. Arizona Western College creates career track jobs for Arizona students with Arizona organizations through a new full-time law enforcement training academy. This academy is currently training its 3rd cohort with cadets from around the state, and thus far has saved our local agencies an average of $400,000 in training costs. Arizona community colleges are located in key communities throughout the state and work closely with business and industry to adapt to labor market changes and reskill workers for success in a post-pandemic world. Since 2018, the Mojave Community College Welding Program has taught more than 120 students each year the skills to earn living wages in a variety of commercial and industrial opportunities. Mojave Community College is also home to the state's first American Welding Society accredited test facility. 8 Arizona community colleges have partnered to train students for higher-paying technical jobs with the Google IT Support Professional Certificate Program. To date, hundreds of students have received certificates through this program that teaches troubleshooting, network protocols, cloud computing, and encryption algorithms for entry-level jobs as IT support specialists. As one of the country's few aviation technology programs focusing on large commercial jets, Pima Community College's Aviation Technology Center attracts students from around the country. The center is being expanded to double its student capacity. An important component of its programs helps veterans adapt the training they acquired in the military for use in the private sector. Arizona Western College is well positioned to reskill workers for success in a post-pandemic world through a $178,000 grant from the Arizona Department of Agriculture to create an all-online pest control applicator certificate that will be available to students throughout the state. Arizona Western College is currently modifying the curriculum with video assets and lab kits, so geography is not a barrier to this training, which addresses a shortfall of skilled applicants. Mesa Community College's Cable Harness Wiring Bootcamp allows students to earn an industry-recognized certification that assures aerospace industry partners they are ready for hire. Successfully completing just one class qualifies students to interview with Boeing for a full-time job. Arizona's community colleges are committed to leveraging, investing, and adapting state funds to prepare students for the most in-demand careers. Thank you for supporting Arizona's community colleges.
All right, so thank you for spending a time to actually watch the video. So what struck me, the things that stood out for me from the video is the fact that our community colleges are really collaborating with industries to try and figure out jobs that are going to be meaningful, jobs that are going to lead to employment. But JD, let me ask you, just give us a general overview of how this pandemic has perhaps disrupted our community colleges, and in which ways have community colleges responded to this disruption?
Great. Thank you, Luigi. I think one of the key parts is I'm not sure the pandemic disrupted as much as it sped up a process that was already occurring. And that's really a direction towards providing students the skills necessary to succeed in a much shorter time frame. So we know that business and industry is changing quickly. We know we hear our governor talk about the speed of business. We know things are happening much quicker than education has typically been able to do. The only way for educational institutions to adjust to that is really to collaborate. And so you saw in that video an enormous amount of collaboration that's happening between the colleges and their local businesses and industries. We've worked not only locally, but then collectively, we've come together as the Arizona Community College Coordinating Council, the 10 community college districts, coordinating themselves together to really provide a statewide as well as a local response. We were recently recognized and accepted as one of 20 states to be in the Reskilling and Recovery Network. That is a network that is made up and sponsored by the National Governors Association and the American Association of Community Colleges. As one of 20 states doing that, we're going to share best practices amongst each other. And our council is made up of the governor's office, the Arizona Commerce Authority, workforce and industry leaders, as well as all 10 community college districts. So we think we're positioned really well to learn from many of the other states and institutions, and then collaborate collectively so that together we can impact the state as we go through reskilling and recovery, but also remembering the important part of being a community college, and that's that close connection to the citizens that fund us on local property taxes. So you saw a wide variety of experiences in that video because each of the 10 districts responds to a completely different microeconomy, if you will. Business and industry that's locally based that we need to respond to so that our local areas can be successful, thus leading to our state being successful.
Mark, I want to go to you. From your point of view, how nimble has Arizona been in delivering programs, either a longer term program or maybe even a shorter term certificate that fills our state workforce needs? And I'm just going to ask you from the point of view of your company, what has the pandemic done to your ability to then access skilled workforce? I know it's only been just a couple months, 6 months or so that we've had this isolation, self-isolation, quarantine, and the shuttering of some businesses. But what are your thoughts on this one?
So it's a great question, Luigi. I appreciate it. I think Arizona's done a great job. The community colleges across the board, across the state, collaboratively have really understood how to act at the speed of business. I think, pre-pandemic, we were really starting to see that level of collaboration between the different districts, looking at how they could share curriculum and do so in a quick way, making sure that there's communication with the industry partners. Certainly there's a challenge when we get into a pandemic. We're obviously, in our facilities looking to make sure that we're all complying with all the public health orders. There's a particular challenge when you're talking about some of the technologies that we're looking for where it's very hands-on. So I think that there's been a little bit of a blip that's common across the entire nation. But the amount of innovation that's happening with the community colleges to make sure we're getting towards having the right PPE and thinking about changing up the class schedules and making sure that we're socially distanced has been truly impressive. So I'm very grateful for all the work that they've done to be able to respond to that. An example that we're looking at is electrical boot camp. You saw that in the video. We're talking about a technology that, is very hands-on, very technical. It's the wiring bundles that go into aircraft, both on the defense side and a commercial side for a company like ours. And you have to have a chance to have that hands-on opportunity. And the Mesa Community College has responded to do a boot camp that's really only a matter of weeks as opposed to, say, several year-long curriculum. And when you're talking about trying to transition to a new opportunity, when we're talking about an industry like ours that are trying to meet the needs of our customers, that quick, specific response to that type of training is critical. And we've really seen Maricopa and Mesa Community College deliver on that.
Let me go to David. David, can you give us just a quick overview of how your campuses are doing? And are they back to in-person classroom? If they're not back to in-person classroom, where are we at in terms of delivering your educational programs?
Yes, Luigi. So we have about 80% of our courses are being delivered online, virtually, and about 20% face-to-face.
Has that always been the case? It's always been 80-20?
No, this is a radical shift for us. We probably had a flip, about 20% pre-pandemic were being delivered online and about 80% face-to-face. But for us at Pima, responding to this new reality is really about alignment to the changing needs of industry. And so what we are doing is launching and adapting our programs at a much faster pace. And as JD said, in doing so in close collaboration and partnership with industry as well as other community colleges. And, disruptions are now occurring so rapidly in most industries, it leads to the need for companies to master this scalable learning, and community colleges play a key role in this scalable learning in terms of both upskilling and reskilling of workers. And additionally, because education is no longer linear, we have designed multiple on-ramps for lifelong learning that include these short-term training certificates that take students where they are and educate them quickly and lead to jobs. And I'll share just a couple of examples of how we are doing this at Pima. The first example is in the trucking industry, which in the United States is an $800 billion industry. And we are, 70% of everything that we buy is delivered by a truck. And we are seeing major disruptions occurring in the trucking industry as a result of transportation technology. And Arizona is actually leading in transportation technology overall as the industry begins to shift to autonomous freight vehicles. And last year, Pima partnered with the self-truck driving company Too Simple to develop the first in the nation autonomous truck curriculum that equips truck drivers with the knowledge and skills to expand their roles as the industry changes. And so Too Simple and Pima, we co-created the curriculum for the certificate that consists of 5 courses and can be completed in 1 semester. Because the future of truck transportation, it offers new opportunities for today's drivers, but it requires new skills. And this certificate ensures that our students build the competencies in multiple areas, from logistics and information technology to automated industrial technology. And we're delivering all of this online. And so we can deliver this across the whole state or even across the nation.
Thanks for that, David. And I guess the same question for you, Darcy. Just give us a quick overview of how the community college colleges in Maricopa have responded to this crisis that we have.
Sure. Thank you, Luigi. And everything Maricopa is doing, our 10 colleges and roughly 200,000 students, everything that's been said by my colleagues is true, speed and scale. And it's about the speed at which we can get programs up to really respond to specific needs, like the Boeing example that Mark talked about and that was on the video. But it's also working with our colleges within Maricopa and those districts here on this webinar, as well as across the state, to scale those things. And so in order to really meet the needs of the labor market currently, we have to generate more and more of the kinds of skilled talent that are going to be necessary. The other part of speed that's important, and then I want to talk about one of our new programs, is the short time frame in which people have to get reskilled. So you have unprecedented numbers of unemployed individuals currently in Arizona and across the country, and they're looking for ways to get jobs and careers quickly. So we have to look at short-term training options, from boot camps that can be 9 weeks long to 1 semester's worth of training that give individuals an industry-recognized set of skills that can get them employed across employers throughout Arizona. And the tricky part about that is ensuring that we understand what employers in general want. We have individual partnerships that are really important, but those individual partnerships need to be able to be expanded to cover a foundational set of skills that other employers will value as well. So one of the examples that we recently launched was an artificial intelligence program with Intel. Intel was the impetus behind that, and they came to Maricopa because they were looking for a very important set of diversity, ability to adapt, and scale potential. And so they wanted to work with community colleges, and they understand the way the community colleges work together through AC4, through our Arizona Tech Corridor, that if we got something started in Maricopa, we could scale through our district and then to across the state. And the other important part of artificial intelligence is the diversity of the students we serve. We represent Arizona, we represent Arizona's communities in tremendous ways. So artificial intelligence, this particular program brings together sort of the human thinking and the machine learning. And it requires the diversity as the human thinking. So if you have all the same kind of people developing that artificial intelligence, you're not going to fully represent what's humanity and what's the community at large. So we worked with Intel to launch this first in the country AI program. The interesting part about this program is it's not, while it's Intel, one would think about semiconductors and IT as a sector or advanced manufacturing. Artificial intelligence cuts across a number of sectors, say financial services, healthcare, et cetera. There are estimates that up to 50% of all jobs will be impacted by automation and artificial intelligence. And we have a massive gap around those who can have the skills to adapt and work through that for industries. So we're really excited. We're piloting this now with Maricopa through this year. And then we're really looking forward to how we can scale this across the state, so we have more and more individuals who can take in a short period of time, find themselves with the skills that could be hired at a number of different employers across the state in a highly valuable area. So that's one example of something we're doing to try to stay ahead and also be able to do that kind of training, frankly, in an entirely virtual space if we need to continue to do so.
So before I go to Jeff, what I'm hearing trucks that are self-autonomous. I'm hearing AI. I'm hearing the possibility of traditional jobs not being available, not being replaced by these new jobs. And a part of me, quite candidly, is kind of scared because of all these changes that we're facing. And I'm kind of thinking about the folks who are in these traditional jobs, and they're looking around trying to figure out, all right, does this job stay with me for the next 5 or 10 years? But I want to go to Jeff, because Jeff, you have a very a unique and interesting partnership with JD. And tell us, especially since you're in the military, and you deal directly with training intelligence officers. Tell us what what this program is this partnership is.
Okay, thanks, Luigi. First, this is a fascinating opportunity for me. I am a product of the Arizona Community College system. Now, maybe a long time ago, but that's kind of what got me to where I am today. Also, just Fort Huachuca is, for those that don't know, this is the home of the Military Intelligence Corps. So we actually run a school for all military intelligence professionals. We also run a school here for unmanned aerial systems, or drone pilots, all Army drone pilots. We have very large amount of testing community here with 3 major testing commands. And also we have the largest command in NetCom that manages and protects our networks for the Army worldwide. A very broad mission. The other piece I would add is that we put about $3 billion with a B of economic impact into the state of Arizona. Us and the other military installations are at around $9.5 billion a year. So from an industry perspective within the state, the Department of Defense provides quite a bit of economic impact. So to the job side of this, I'm just fascinated by the whole conversation. With Cochise College, we have a tremendous partnership, and there are a couple of pieces of it that I think are really vital. For those that are not familiar with the military, both the uniform side and even the civil service side, the jobs are fairly secure if you want to come in and do this. And it's about 0.5% that serve in uniform in our country. And about 2 out of 10 of those actually stay into retirement. So our partnership with Cochise College is really important to the young men and women that come in the Army and do their service honorably and then go on and get out and do other things. Hundreds and hundreds of young men and women every year are getting certificates and degrees through Cochise College with that partnership. A couple of really important ones, though. One is the virtual augmented reality pilots. We are working with Cochise College, and from an Army DoD perspective, what that provides, and there's been some discussion about virtual and augmented reality already, but we have very, very, very expensive equipment. And if we can use a virtual reality laboratory to develop training opportunities for our young men and women, so they do virtual touches on a piece of equipment 8 times out of 10, and then they only touch the real stuff 2 times out of 10. It actually saves the government millions and millions of dollars in repair parts and costs of the equipment itself. So we are working closely with JD and his team to develop that. They also have certificates in intelligence and cybersecurity, as already mentioned. We have large intelligence and cybersecurity missions here at Fort Huachuca, but broadly, as was just described by Darcy just a couple of minutes ago, the artificial intelligence, machine learning, cybersecurity, we kind of live in this environment now where having access broadly across networks to do things like we're doing right now on Zoom is a vital resource to our country. And as we move into whatever the new normal is, we're going to continue to use these. And we need technicians to maintain this stuff, to build it, to maintain it, to fix it. And that doesn't take a 4-year degree or a master's degree. Those very discrete certificates and credentials that allow you to provide a vital skill, I think that sector, from my perspective as a DoD employee, that sector is growing vastly right now. And there are opportunities on the horizon. And the community college system just seems to be a very good way to get those certificates and credentials to provide a vital service as we expand more into the artificial intelligence, machine learning, and virtual realities, and certificates in intelligence and cybersecurity, and protecting our networks. These are great opportunities, I think. There are great opportunities for future growth in these sectors provided by our community colleges. Over.
Luigi,
go ahead, sir.
If I may, just let me build a little bit on what Jeff and Darcy said. So you heard Darcy talk about speed and scale. And then I think what you hear from Mark and Jeff are that third part, which is relevancy. And so we're trying to bring in and do things at the speed of business, scale them so we can do them across the state, but they must be relevant. They must be timely. They must be in there so that we can address those changing needs. And I heard you talk a little bit about, frankly, it's a little scary. But here's the interesting part is we've seen technology really begin to to really have a significant influence in our society, the need for humans has become actually greater. So while technology is expensive, it's actually not a differentiator anymore in industry. Everybody has access to the technology. So what differentiates you today? What differentiates you is, can you find the people that can work on that technology, that can adjust it, adapt it, move it into new directions? And so, interestingly enough, while technology became a major driver over the last 20 to 30 years, today people are becoming more relevant because they have to take that technology, adjust it, fix it, make it do the things that need to be done. And as Jeff talked about in the workforce today, we're actually talking about a ratio that plays out, and that ratio is 1 to 7. For every one graduate level job, there's 2 baccalaureate prepared jobs, and then there's 7 in the technician fields. And it's those technicians that are the ones that are adjusting, adapting, making things work, testing it, fixing it, all of those key things. And we'll continue to see that ratio of 1 to 7 play out really in any industry. And that's been a critical change that's occurred, not only as we've seen an adjustment through the technological age, but also in just how quickly people need to respond, and national credentials, nationally recognized credentials, industry credentials become just as important, whether they be taught in a boot camp or in a traditional 2-year academic program.
So I want to ask Darcy just real quick, when we talk about micro certificates or certificates or a longer term program, so what do those mean? What do those terms actually mean?
Yeah, so those are really skill-based. They're shorter term, and I switch terms between microcert, which is sort of the higher ed recognized name for those, and short term, because they're smaller in scope in that they're very specific to a set of skills. Generally speaking, those microcerts are aligned to a national standard if a national standard exists. If a national standard doesn't exist, they need to be aligned with an employer expectation. And so those things need to be done in concert with the private sector, because the idea is we're retraining individuals, helping them reskill, whether they have a job or they're looking for a job, in a space that we know they will get hired and they're going to be highly valuable. The difference between a microcert, short-term training, a microcert and a degree are sort of the other things that go with it, right? So you get other courses, they're more credit hours generally, and they include some of your basic foundational math courses, language arts, English, etc. And the length of time. I think that at least for Maricopa, there's been a historical focus on degrees and pathways toward bachelor degrees. So we as community colleges, Maricopa and the others, have worked really hard at ensuring that we can transfer students from our institutions to our state universities, public and private, without them missing any credits. Now we're looking back and saying, oh, let's not forget the short-term skill training things that are going to be important. The interesting part about that is policy at the state and federal level doesn't necessarily support that short-term micro-certification. So in federal policy, student financial aid doesn't incentivize short-term training. It incentivizes full-time students who are enrolling in your standard sort of more, not exactly 15 credit hours, but just your standard sort of full semester load as a student. In the state, there is no student financial aid for community college students, state financial aid for community college students at all, but there are some things that disincentivize us in focusing on those short duration skill training options for students. The federal workforce system does support that, but I think it's something that we all recognize needs to happen in the market, and now we're going to try to adapt, and we are looking for opportunities. I think it would be great to have opportunities to incentivize that as well as just the market driving it.
So I'm sorry, David, you were gonna.
I wanted to give you kind of, as Marcy was saying, I want to give you a kind of a concrete example of a student. And so I'd like to, if I may, I'd like to share of one of our students. And her name is Victoria. And Victoria enrolled at Pima in our adult basic education program. and with the goal of completing her high school equivalency, or, in our GED program. And when she began that program, our advisors encouraged Victoria to enroll in a program at Pima called Integrated Basic Education Skills Training. We call that IBEST. And what this program does is it allows students to enroll in a career and technical education certificate program at the same time they are pursuing their GED. The program essentially provides some extra wraparound support services for these students to be successful. And I'm happy to share that Victoria, she not only completed her GED, but also completed this first level certificate in automated industrial technology and had secured upon that completion multiple job offers. And now she's continuing her education at Pima. And our IBEST program was recently one of 4 programs nationally recognized by the U.S. Office of Career and Technical and Adult Ed for advancing innovation. So, these types of programs that get the student into employment very, very quickly, but then allow them to continue their studies as they're employed are really essential.
So I want to go to Mark, because Mark, you mentioned that Boeing has a partnership with Maricopa, correct? Or is it, with Maricopa.
Yep.
And you talked about
That's
the
right.
wiring bundle in the air, in both commercial and defense airplanes. What are those wiring bundles exactly? And tell us a little bit about the contours of this program.
Sure. So every aircraft, obviously it's really a collection of computers and control surfaces that have to all tie in together. And so you have wire bundles that really are just about that wide that course through the entire aircraft, whether it be the AH-64 Apache that's built here in Mesa for final assembly, or a 787 Dreamliner. And so these wire bundles are very meticulous in that they are long bundles that go throughout the course of the aircraft. You don't see them when you're flying on an airplane, but they are tied together with connectors. And it's that connection point that's really critical, that they're tying in very specifically, very hands-on, meticulous work where you're actually making sure that each wire goes to the right connector. So when the pilot's flying the aircraft, that signal that the pilot is sending is going to the right control surface. So again, it's very technical work, but it like Darcy was saying and others, it's based on a national industry certification standard. It's not just specific to Boeing. It's based on the J certification, a NIMS standard. And so what's great about it is it's meeting the specific need that Boeing has. We have fabrication centers that build electrical components such as these, but we also build composite and metals components for all parts of the Boeing company. But that's a need that other companies can draw on as well. And that's what we're excited about with programs such as the Electrical Boot Camp and others, is that as industry partners, we're opening up the opportunity for those students so that they could potentially come work for Boeing if that's a good fit for them, but that we're giving them a skill that is going to broaden the base of the workforce that has that electrical expertise in Arizona, and give us as industry partners a chance to build consortiums so that as programs ebb and flow, we have a broad base of employees that have that skill here. And then really what that does is gives us certainty to know that as we're looking at a particular program and having to meet that customer need, we know that the workforce is there and ready.
How much, so I go through this program, right? So it's a short-term certificate program. And then, I potentially work at your company. How much will I earn?
Sure. So, starting salaries, we're looking to have the exact number in my head, but, can be somewhere in the order, I think, $40,000, $50,000. You're looking at the other aspect of this is that the opportunity that you have to start in electrical fabrication really opens up the breadth of opportunity of a company like ours. One quick example, individual that I've got a chance to meet who was a graduate of the program, Nicholas Johnson. He had a science baccalaureate degree, but was looking on how could he broaden his skills to have that hands-on understanding of how things are beyond just the theory on engineering and paper. And he took this program and has gone on and actually worked in our electrical fabrication center, had that hands-on experience. But now he's actually gone on to be a manufacturing engineering planner in Boeing.
Oh, wow.
And so that's broadened his career opportunities as well. And, you know, a great thing too is we're continuing to invest in our employees. We want to see them succeed. We want to see them grow their education. So we have a skills learning together program where we're investing in what other graduate degrees they might want to get. And Nicholas is taking advantage of that. He's actually getting a master's in systems engineering at Cornell. So,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
we talk about stackable degrees and those opportunities, but it's, you know, the partnership that we have with community colleges can really just be the beginning. And whether we're paying for them to go to another institution elsewhere, or if we talk about the technology corridor network, Maricopa partnering with Pima and Central Arizona Community College to have a common manufacturing curriculum that you can, again, come to Boeing, but same kind of skills that would potentially be applicable to a Raytheon in Tucson, Arizona, or a Lucid in Central Arizona, or an Amazon potentially. I know that they've been interested in that program. And again, making sure that we're thinking about this as a lifelong learning opportunity, that we're a state that focuses on lifelong learning. And NAU recognized that, and with the Arizona Advanced Technology Corridor, if you go through that, they've established classes that will lead you to a bachelor's degree in manufacturing technology once you've completed that program. So again, that's what we're excited about, again, about that collaborative approach of lifelong learning in the state.
So I want to pause here just for a second. I want to ask our viewers and our listeners, please send in your questions. We have a great panel. We want you to ask your questions. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can. Let me go to Jeff real quick. You mentioned your program with Cochise College, which is augmented, virtual augmented reality. And how does that look like on the ground exactly? And, you know, in a pandemic situation, from my point of view, hands-on, it seems to me it's imperative, right? And I mean, you have to have hands-on experience. But now we're all kind of thinking through what we do with it, in this crisis. But so you have augmented, virtual augmented reality. What is that exactly?
Okay, so we train some, I'll use an example of our intelligence and electronic warfare technicians is what they are. They're maintenance and repair folks. And we have a broad amount in Army intelligence of devices that do all kinds of things, but a lot of it is collecting data, pulling data from satellites or from aircraft or from ground collection sensors and all that kind of stuff. And then it processes. So these young men and women learn how to repair, how to fix that stuff. So one piece is the tactical ground station, which is going to be modernized here shortly. It's going to be something new, but it is a computing system that draws in data, then does some front end processing. To fix that thing, the course that we teach these young men and women is about 34 weeks in length. In that time, they do get one of these short duration industry standards credentials, which is Security Plus, which allows them to operate inside of a network. That's a Microsoft security standard for working inside a network. So it's very vital to these young men and women. But because the equipment is so expensive, the virtual world allows a soldier to take apart, repair, troubleshoot, fix equipment 30, 40 times instead of 4 soldiers standing around one piece of equipment. One is taking apart, troubleshooting and fixing while the other one observes, and then they get a chance and then they get a chance. So these pieces of equipment are $6-7 million a piece, give or take. We have to have 7 of them to train the soldiers, about 300 soldiers a year. We could reduce that down to 1. And if let's just say it's 6 million times 7, that's a whole lot of taxpayer dollars. We could cut that all the way down to 1 and do most of their touches in a virtual world. So they're not limited to the amount of time they have in the class touching the equipment. And then when they take their final test, they can touch the equipment. And it's, sorry for the pun, it's virtually the same thing. They get to go out to the same components, turn the screws, identify the problem, see the breaks, solder the equipment, fix it all, put it back together. And then they can do it live one time. And it saves not only the equipment costs, but the repair costs and all that other stuff. Same for diesel mechanics, same for fixing tractors, same for a lot of the stuff you've heard other people talk about. It creates an opportunity to get repetitive skills so they're in your, when you leave the school, you are ready to do those jobs at a greatly reduced cost.
So I want to go,
Luigi,
I'm sorry, go ahead, JD, real quick, sir.
But here's where this program has to work, and this is where we're seeing technology and innovation, human innovation coming off of that technology. So the virtual reality industry has primarily been based around gaming. And so now the question is, how do you take that gaming technology and implement that into an educational industry such as Jeff is talking about? Well, somebody has to come in and develop that content. Right. They have to do the background work so that that entire piece of equipment that Jeff is talking about can be virtualized, can then be placed in a virtual world where you can stick your head in it. You can look at it from multiple sides. You can almost literally touch and feel it just based upon the different directions you can go. The partnership we have with the Fort is really allowing us to develop people to do the content. Then they will have, so 1 semester with us and then a 1 semester internship where they will do project-based learning by actually virtualizing these pieces of equipment that are being talked about. So the student's getting not only an educational opportunity, but is doing some practical hands-on industry specs that will allow them, and then the Fort gets the beneficiary of that. The unique part that we're seeing in that is it's traditional age students interested in virtual reality, but the other part of that lifelong learning model is they're standing side by side with maybe a veteran who's coming back to pick up new skills, maybe had the electrical skills, now they're interested in the virtual reality skills. An interesting factor nationwide, 30% of all students enrolled in a community college in the United States of America already has a bachelor's degree. They're coming back to gain some extra skills in those short-term areas so that they can succeed in this ever-changing economy.
So I want to go to David, because David, and then I want to ask Darcy another question as well. But David, real quick, you have a partnership with Caterpillar, right? You're in, and what can you share with us just real quick what this partnership and it is?
So essentially, you know, to JD's point and to all the panelists' point about lifelong learning, what that really is an academy for Caterpillar engineers. So, you know, to JD's point, these are people with bachelor's degrees, with master's degrees that really need to get the hands-on training in machine tool, in welding. And so our partnership with Caterpillar essentially provides all of that hands-on training to many of these engineers who never got that in their traditional bachelor and master degree programs.
So Darcy, I want to ask you, so let's say I'm looking around and trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. You know, let's say, for example, that I've either been laid off from work because my company is, you know, unable to continue, or I'm just like, you know, I'm looking at my degree right now, maybe thinking, all right, I probably should need to shift, right? So what do I do? Where do I go? What help can you provide? Both, you know, high school students think, you know, considering where they should, you know, what they should take, and also for, you know, older students or adults that are already in the workforce, trying to reskill. Yeah.
So there are a couple answers to that, and we, you know, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking about, wouldn't it be interesting to have a central portal for all of the community colleges where potential students can go in and start to explore what options are available to them across the state in these areas. For Maricopa, we have a landing page that is directed specifically toward those who are looking to reskill, who primarily are out of work. And I saw a question in the Arizona at Work about Arizona at Work in the chat, and that's a very important gateway. It is actually the only thing that can help support financially individuals who are out of work get the skills they need and the training and pay for that college to get to work. So that's a central place for people to enter who are not currently employed and are looking to explore where they can go. So Arizona at Work does play a critical role in the federal supports that help students. In Maricopa, we have the maricopa.edu/reskill. And we created that landing page during the pandemic. And I think to JD's initial point, which is the pandemic just sped things up. We needed to have that space, and we were focused on so many different kinds of things as we were changing the way we approach our system around pathways for students towards specific fields of interest and putting careers up front. We sort of missed that, what is that frontline, so non-traditional student who's not necessarily sort of already intending to go into higher education, but is now finding themselves needing higher education. So we have a landing page that asks you some questions, and then it starts to direct you to some of those short-term skill programs, opportunities for training. And we've also used, this is also data that's not necessarily readily available to individuals who are thinking about what can I do. There are jobs that are still in growth patterns, even with the pandemic. So there are jobs in healthcare and IT and advanced manufacturing that still show positive growth, even though we've run into a pandemic. So we're looking a lot at those who are in service industry, particularly in tourism and travel, that are needing to sort of take those skills and sort of use them in different spaces. And so healthcare, all the first responders and essential workers during this pandemic are all things that all the community colleges train for. Firefighters, police, healthcare workers, everything from nurses to phlebotomists to you name it. So those are always there, and they're always going to be on growth. If you're not interested in healthcare, maybe you look for IT options. Those are high growth. We're just now launching the Google IT program to help in customer service. We're also about to launch a statewide Amazon Web Services cloud computing program. These are things that didn't exist in Arizona and now exist, and so they're offering lots of different options. So each system, I would suspect that each of the districts has their own way of students interacting and sort of figuring out where they want to go. But in Maricopa, again, maricopa.edu/reskill will help you start to think through, individuals start to think through where they might want to go within Maricopa. And I think collaboratively, we should think as community colleges about how we could do that together. And we do need to really stand shoulder to shoulder with the Arizona at Work system and getting that done.
Well, I think we have one concrete idea here that you can kind of pick up and then just run with, right? The idea of maybe a one portal that then allows, a single portal that allows a student and somebody who's already in the workforce to see what programs you offer. But we're almost out of time. I want to go to some of our audience questions. There were a lot of questions had to do with, here's a question, for example, what efforts are happening at the state and federal level to eliminate disincentives for providing the types of training and skill building that's critical to business and industry players? I guess really the question is that at the state level, for example, what can the state do to help? What policy would you like to see the state adopt?
This is Mark. I'll jump in there real quick and let others respond. I'd say first, stay tuned to a degree. 2 points. The Reskilling and Recovery Network that was mentioned, where we have an Arizona team that's responding to this collaboration amongst states with the National Governors Association and American Association of Community Colleges. That team is looking at what we can do in terms of federal, state, and local policy response to aid this. So we will be coming up with those recommendations, and I think you're going to see some just tremendous ideas from around the country. You don't always have to reinvent the wheel here in Arizona. Two, again, I can't say enough about the collaboration of these industry and community college partnerships. We talk about in the workforce system, I sit on the state workforce board, there's always a challenge is there this disconnect between the education and training that's happening in a community college or elsewhere and what's really happening in industry. And when you talk about what we're doing with the Reskilling and Recovery Network, what you're talking about with those boot camps, that disconnect has been eliminated. You have to have that communication happen if you're going to be able to have those boot camps and other training programs successful. And so that gives certainty to me as an individual that if I'm going into it, I'm going to have an opportunity for a job and a great skill. Representative Weniger had a bill in the 2019 session that looked at how specifically the state could support those types of partnerships, and would love to see other members take a look at that, see if there's ways we can make that work. That's something at the state level we could really support those collaborations.
Let me ask Jeff real quick. Jeff, there's a question here. And do you know anything about the DoD collaboration with the renewable energy sector in training troops leaving the military? Could you please discuss just real briefly what is available for our troops leaving the armed forces?
Yeah. So on the renewable energy side, really what DoD does is supports initiatives that come from our political leaders on renewable energy and how we do that. So we provide a lot of land, like we have a very large solar setup here on Fort Huachuca land. But as far as opportunities for soldiers leaving, the one advantage of military service is that you do get a GI Bill, just like from World War II on. And that GI Bill offers you resources to go to school. And any soldier who serves honorably throughout their term can take advantage of GI Bill to provide themselves education. And on that point, just as a kind of a community college admirer from the sidelines here, community colleges are they're eminently affordable. And I know everybody comes from different backgrounds and economic situations, but there are opportunities, affordable opportunities to gain a skill, as was described today, in as little as a few weeks that can lead to employment just by searching through your community colleges. And the state of Arizona has some great community colleges. So I'd highly encourage folks to look at that. It's affordable, it's doable, and it can lead to vital skills that can lead to jobs. And I think that's what this is all about in the end, is economic opportunities for people. And community colleges offer that very well.
So I want to ask just one question, because we're almost out of time, but if you can just bear with me, maybe just 2 minutes. But I want to ask JD, both JD and David. There were a lot of questions about older population and the support systems that you may or may not have for, not high school students going into community colleges, but, returning, older workforce, right? What support systems do you have for them? Let me just start with David, and then we'll close out with JD.
I think, and you really hit it, Luigi, we need to be able to have easy on-ramps for these students. And that's the key. Darcy mentioned the one Arizona at Work and so forth. So we have very strong partnerships with Arizona at Work. And the key is that we really have to make it easy for these students to come to the college. So we really want to break down all of those barriers, because many of these students have not been back to school for years. So our focus is on creating a safe environment for these students to really upskill themselves without a lot of judgment.
And JD?
Yeah, I'd just say that's nothing new for community colleges. The average age of a Cochise College student is 28 years old. We don't have a lot of 28-year-olds on campus. We have a whole bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds, and then it shrinks down a little bit, and then we see this major return of the 40 to 55-year-old coming back to reskill, to retool. And so I think those structures are already there at many of the community colleges. I'll just kind of say a little bit in closing, Luigi. The Arizona Community College Coordinating Council, known as AC4, is really out in front leading many of these charges together. And so if any of the listeners are interested in what's happening, I just say contact any of your 10 community college districts. We're collaborating. We'll make sure we get you to the right institution, doing the right things. There's many programs that all of us do, but there's some very unique programs that are only happening at one college, and we'll make sure that we get those out. We've kind of come to realize the success of the community college system is the success of our local communities and the state of Arizona as a whole. We stand ready to assist.
And with that, thank you again for spending the morning in our morning scoop. I learned a lot, and I hope that our viewers and our listeners have learned a lot as well. We are going to post this video up, and once that's out, I'm going to send folks a link to it so you can watch it on demand. But again, I want to thank JD, Mark, Jeff, Darcy, and David. Thank you for your time. I want to thank our sponsors, the Arizona Community College Coordinating Council and Pivotal Policy Consulting for supporting us this way. And to our viewers and our listeners, have a wonderful rest of your day, and bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.